Welcome to the Nurturing Fathers podcast, a show dedicated to helping men succeed at the most challenging and rewarding job they'll ever have, being a dad. Your hosts are Mark Perlman, the creator and founder of the Nurturing Fathers program, and his son, Corey Perlman, who facilitates the program at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary and is also a father of 2 young children. It's time to add tools to your Nurturing Fathers toolbox. Mark and Corey, take it away.
Hey everyone, my name is Corey Perlman. Welcome back to the Nurturing Fathers podcast. So happy to have you all with us today. As always, I got my Christmas elf, because we're right in the holiday spirit here, Dad. My Christmas elf and Hanukkah elf, for that matter, Mr. Mark Perlman. Dad, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I should have worn my Santa Claus uniform if I knew you were going to intro me like that.
I always try to keep you on your toes, man. I always try to keep you.
It's been a nice holiday. It's nice and cool here in Sarasota, Florida. And today in particular, I'm thrilled to have the guest that we're able to have. It's Miss Mary Ward from North Carolina. And Mary's got a rather large job and large role there in terms of working with the Department of Public Safety, the whole prison system of 55 different institutions. And Mary will talk to us a little bit today about why nurturing fathers with incarcerated men, some of her experiences, some of her outcomes. And Mary and I have known each other for a lot of years. I've been up there doing some training. She's come down here and trained with us. And I'm thrilled to have you here today, Mary. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor to be invited to share what North Carolina's doing and what we have been doing. I'm the Family Services Administrator for Offender Family Services with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety under the Reentry Programs and Services sections with adult correction prisons. I started in the prison system, which back then it was called Department of Correction, in 1988. I was the social worker at Raleigh Correctional Center for Women for 12 years. It was a minimum custody facility for women. And then I took this position in 2000. So I have been in this role for it'll be 21 years in February.
Sounds about right.
So it doesn't seem like it. So under my supervision as Offender Family Services, I work with families, offenders from all across our 5 facilities, the community. I'm also the Victim Services Coordinator. So I work with the victims of crime. And we all know that we have a lot of family members who are victims as well, and not just with the crime related, but a lot of times they are having just to deal with the situation and their loved one in prison. They're serving the time with them as well. I also direct the domestic violence programs that we have in our facilities. We have a Reaching Out from Within program, which is an offender support group that's at several of our facilities. We started it came from Kansas, and it's a very, very awesome group. I also direct all the parenting programs and help facilitate our program audits, assessments that we do across the state. Of course, we haven't been able to have those with the COVID restrictions and everything. It's been difficult this past year to get out to the facilities because I normally travel very frequently to all of our facilities and sit in the classes and do the assessments, and especially with the facilitators. So that's been something I have missed, very much so. We started the Father Accountability, we call it the Father Accountability Program, which we use the Nurturing Fathers curriculum. And it was started back in 2005, 2006 through a grant out in our Western region. And it started in those facilities in our Western region back in 2006. And that's where it stayed there for some years. It was kind of like this kept secret.
Yeah. I remember a gentleman named the Reverend Reggie Longcrier, who you must have known in one facility. Right. And I remember he started this, and it was so successful with the men that he did that they asked to be interviewed and videoed, that group of men, in order to give their testimonials. Now, that video from back in the early 2000s has lasted as a powerful statement of what nurturing fathers can do with incarcerated men, because these men were not scripted, not prepared. They spoke from the heart. And it was really remarkable to hear what they had to say.
And I have a copy of that. You gave me a copy of that. I remember the first time I saw it was when we came down to Sarasota to the training. So in 2000, when they basically took over, because I was already working with all the other parenting programs we had. As I said, we had 55 facilities. We have one main female facility because we've closed several others over the years. As of today, I looked this morning, we have 29,246 in prison in North Carolina. That's separate from probation, parole, county jails. 27,177 of those are males in our facilities. And so, of course, we have a lot of dads incarcerated.
Right. Well, you know, what inspired you, if you will, because you've done such powerful work and you've spread this so far within your system. What initially motivated you to take the Nurturing Fathers program to this higher level? And talk a little bit about how you did this with your team of trainers, stuff like that.
Well, in about 2012 is when I was basically overtaking the coordinating of the program. And at the time, we had one individual who was a master trainer, and she was retiring. And I'm like, we got to have some master trainers here because, you know, we've been focusing for some years on the reentry mission and have been working hard at ensuring that our programs, we get evidence-based practice programs, which is proven to be successful. And I knew that Nurturing Fathers was one of those evidence-based practice programs. So that's when we had the ability to finding the funds to go down to Sarasota. And I took 3 other staff with me to participate in the training to become master trainers because I knew we wanted to get it to other regions. We have 4 regions. And like I said, this program can't just stay in the West. We need to get it out and reaching out to other fathers. And, you know, I've noticed over the years, we've had a few other small parenting programs that were great, but we needed more of an extensive hands-on program where the offenders are able to do the role playing and really dig deep into what they need to do in the reunification of their children. And I've noticed over the years as well, I've seen a lot more where children are in, say, our county custody social services, some foster care, some that they're just having to monitor, where they're wanting to do the reunification with the dads. And they're saying, hey, we want you to, in a program, we want you to take, you know, a program. And then I've had offenders that write me and say, hey, I want to take a program. I'm going to be back with my kids. And we know that the majority of our offenders are going back home and they are going back to their children and to their families. So we've got to do what we have to do to make sure we give them the tools that we can to make it successful and that reunification successful.
Yeah. And I would imagine that reunification and going back to family, if they can succeed with their families, it gives them a much better chance of not reoffending, I would hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I always felt, Mary, you know, right from the start with this program, it's been over 23 years now, that particular population always touched me and motivated me to try and work with, because I just felt that, you know, they're there, they have time, and why not use it to try and better their situations and give them and their families a better chance. And I know these men want better for their kids. So I really, really respect and appreciate the work you've done. You've been an extraordinary colleague of mine and friend to Nurturing Fathers over the years.
It's a phenomenal program. And the staff we have trained to teach it, they have said, I love teaching this program. It's just one of the best for me to teach. And then I have staff that call and say, can you get me into the training? Because I want to teach the class.
But word spreads. Word spreads.
It really does. It really does. And of the 55 facilities, I do want to say that we have right now 41 of our facilities that have the Father Accountability Program, which I've been so excited about that we've been able to expand it, and even have facilities reached out to me to say, hey, I want this program. I've heard about it. I want this program. Right now we have 58 of the classes because we have larger facilities that have close, medium, and minimum custody. So they'll have several classes at one facility. One of the things I've tried to stress, the facilities is often they think, oh, well, maybe your minimum custody facilities just need this. I'm like, no, all custody levels can benefit from this program, even if the offender is going to be serving time for a long time. It's still about that connection with their children, which is so important.
I have two questions for you. I'm going to tee you up for this first one real quick, because this is such a passionate topic for me, watching the men, go through this program. But I mean, in my mind, this is potentially the ability to change the world. And I'm just curious from your vantage point, how can this impact the world essentially as these men go back into society and such? Like from your heart, like how do you see this impact on a large scale like that?
On a large scale, the impact that I see, honestly, is that, there's been father initiatives for a long time, which has been great recognizing fathers. I do remember when I started with the prison system, we had a lot of classes for our mothers, which is great. We need those as well. And then after we had started with the Mother Read program back in the 80s, some of the offenders are writing and say, hey, what about me? What about us dads? We want to do this as well. And I think if we can reestablish those father-child relationships, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be loved, knowing they're loved, knowing the right way, and dads can say, hey, this is not the route you want to take, wanting to change. There's so much going on in this world today, negative, and we've got to reach out to make sure that these dads have an opportunity to say, hey, son, daughter, I'm here for you, and you are loved, and the positive, and we want the best for you, if that's answering your question.
Perfectly. And not to mention the fact,
it does, Mary.
yeah, you nailed it. I mean, and it changes the trajectory, Mary, right? I mean, if you think about, and the way I look at this is the cycle of dads probably that came before him probably weren't very positive, right? And then if this dad can change that cycle and change it for the better for future generations, that's what you're doing, by the way.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
The family network is just all over the place today. Very much different from how my family, how we grew up, and I'm sure how you all grew up, even from sitting down every night to dinner. I mean, that's what you do. And with all the technology and social media, and I just think we've got to stay focused to break that cycle. And the younger kids coming into the system is heartbreaking.
Yes. And the cycle on the other side, Mary, is that when I've sat with fathers like that, or even watched the video that we made about your population, when they tell their father story, these men sitting there, they're some of the saddest father stories I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
A father being shot and killed before the child was born, a father being totally absent. I mean,
right.
These men have traumas and issues that probably have never been talked about or addressed. So
Absolutely.
That thread goes right through the Nurturing Fathers program, and like you say, right to their kids, to make give their kids a better chance.
Oh, absolutely. It's vital. I think there are so many children out there today and that do have unfortunately, the absent father. And I think the focus on the whole father initiative is, I think this country's finally realized, that children need to be in their father's life, whether you're incarcerated or not. And it's just like my handbook that I wrote. My first sentence was, every offender is part of a family.
Right.
And that's what we have to focus on. They've been convicted, they've been through court, they're in the facility. So now our role is to make sure that they get what they need, rehabilitation and programs and services, so they can get back out and get back home and be a productive dad.
They're lucky to have you, Mary, because that way of thinking, I think, is the key to making these facilities productive and hoping that the people in them, men and women, will come out better than they went in.
Absolutely.
Hope. It's an incredible opportunity in that regard that you're taking full advantage of. And you've got, with all those titles that you've got the reach to do that. I'm serious, in all those areas. And Nurturing Fathers cares about each of those areas, whether it's domestic violence or, child well-being and all of that.
Ties in together. It just, it really does. Even when we've had where some children have been the victims at some point, or involved or in the middle of a domestic violence situation at home, and the offender is working with all that they can, Now we know we can't. As in my social work field, when I first got out of college, I said, okay, I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to fix everybody. Of course, we know that's not realistic, but, I certainly do my best to make sure that they have these opportunities and with their kids. We do have facilities that will have a family day. Well, they have had a family day, not this past year, where the children get to spend all day with their father, with their mother. We have what's called the One Day with God program through Forgiven Ministries, and they do all day. I don't know if you have familiar with them or not. Scotty Barnes, I don't know if does it in Florida or not. She's expanded over the years. She's from North Carolina.
Okay.
And has an awesome, her story.
Wow.
Having been a child of an offender.
Okay.
Way back. And I don't want to tell her story, but I just know that she said the last time her father was in court and going to be sentenced for the last time, he was like the largest drug kingpin on the East Coast. He was in federal prison.
Wow.
And he first went to prison when she was 4. So she's in her 30s. And the last time they were sentencing him, basically for the rest of his life, she said that was the first time her father ever said, I love you.
Wow.
So she's been there. She's got her story to tell. Yeah.
So she does a phenomenal job having the program, working with the offenders on Friday, and then we have a thing on Saturday. So sometimes when we have these family days, that also and can incorporate it with when you've got the facilities that have the father accountability program, because so often they're nervous, their expectations. Sometimes we've had children come and they have not seen their dad in 5 years, 10 years. So
Powerful.
Very powerful, very powerful.
Mary, let me ask you, I'm going to tee you up with this because it's going to take you a second probably to think back. So I want to take your memory back to some of your, any profound stories or moments from your experience doing the Nurturing Fathers program there. And I also want you to tell us, and I know you can ballpark this if you want, but I'd love to know just if in your rough estimate of how many dads you guys have touched through the Nurturing Fathers program there, if you've got a rough amount. You mentioned classes, but I think it would just be cool for our listeners to know the amount of dads that have been impacted by this program thanks to you and your team. But I want you to think back on a story or two from one of the dads that just really, brings to light the power of the Nurturing Fathers program. I'll give you one real quick because I know I'm putting you on the spot. A gentleman came into my class. He was a military man, and he told me that in his family they had pow-pows, and pow-pows were another word for hitting their kids, and that was just something he grew up with and they grew up with and their whole family grew up with. And that's just a part of their culture. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, he came back in and he said, Corey, I got to tell you something. And I said, what's up? And he said, no more pow pows. I said, really? And he said, yep, my wife and I talked about it. At this point forward, there will be no more pow pows. We're going to do it a different way. And that was not anything that I had said to him. It was just something that kind of just came through him. So it's just, I've always remembered that. It's just such a powerful moment. So what are some things that come to your mind when you think about that?
Wow. I've heard so many. And this is not just one, but it's several where they're in the program. And there's one in particular, DSS had custody of the children. And they were in the process, I don't know how North Carolina works, but they were in the process of looking at termination of parental rights. And it wasn't necessarily anything that the father did. The mother had a part to play in this as well. And knowing that Department of Social Services was looking at terminating the parental rights, and the children were young, he wanted to take a class anyway. And he was determined to make this work. And to see, I was sitting in the class that particular day, and he's in tears, trying to get his children back. And he's showing social services what he's doing and want to reestablish that relationship with him. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't always know what the outcome is once they are released. But that was one particular where I'm sitting in the class in tears myself. So, and how powerful it was in teaching him what he was needing to do and gaining that interaction back.
Yeah. In classes that we've done here in my home county, certain of those fathers that you just described, Mary, invite their social worker into graduation just to see what they've gained and what they have to say.
Exactly.
And I've always said that's just such a powerful thing. If you can imagine a state social worker coming in along with mom and grandmom and the kids on that graduation night, because the father is so proud that he wants that social worker to hear what he has to say, the father I choose to be. So
absolutely.
Wrap it up, Corey. This is, Mary, any final questions, Corey, at all, or anything that we have?
No, but he was asking as far as statistics and what I can get from our program we have. When we went to training in October of 2014, the trainer, one of the facilitators, Leanne McCrary, she started a class in November. And so since November of 2014, we've had 2,188 participate in the Father Accountability Program. We've had 1,289 complete the program.
Wow.
Oftentimes, they don't get to complete it. Number one, they may get a disciplinary, get removed. They transfer, their custody level changes. They get released. There are always those factors that go into play. I know it may not sound like a lot to a lot of people with us having the 29, over close to 30,000 offenders. But for me, it's huge that we've had that many completed.
Yeah. And then you've got another 6 years or 8 years before that we have
exactly
leaders. So it's a tremendous number. Mm-hmm. And the percentage of completion from those who started would be high for any group anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I've had the men sitting in classes, and like I said, I've missed not being able to get in the classes that have said, I've taken just about every program in this system because I've been in 20 some years. And they said, but this is the best program I've ever taken. And with the knowledge and learning to talk to my children, even if it's on the phone, in a letter, what to say, and coming to terms with their inner issues and their past experiences with their father. One of the most touching things is, as for all of us, is when we do the circle.
Right.
It's just so powerful. Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't think I could get through that.
Yeah.
But I did.
Well, Mary, I so much appreciate you spending this time with us. And I was looking forward to it. I know you and I haven't seen that much in recent years.
Absolutely.
But we'll keep in touch. I hope you have a wonderful new year. And as things open up, we'll all get back to doing some of the great stuff that we hope to do.
I do want to say, when we're talking about the numbers, we've had to shut down since COVID, but since January up until December, we have had 384 participate and 171 complete.
Wow.
And then things kind of shut down in March, April. And like I said, we've had several facilities that have said, Mary, we want to do this. Can we do it? You can get 6 in a class to do that. So the facilities, that have the program, they love it. We have one CRB facility, which is for your probation paroles, and they have about 5 instructors because they are probation parole officers, and the guys are only there like 90 days. So they have to have continuous of classes. And they said, this is the best thing we've ever had. The classes, it's a powerful program. The offenders they love it. I get some of the evaluations, that they'll send me. And they say, I never thought I would ever learn how to talk to my baby girl.
Oh. Mary, I want to package you up and take you on the road.
Hey, you got a consulting position? I love it.
Amazing,
Keep
Mary.
in touch. Well, thank you so much.
Amazing.
It's great seeing you.
I hope I've done some enlightening with the program. And
perfect.
You definitely have. And thank you for all the work that you've done and all those men that have been able to reconnect with their children. And like we said, the generations upon generations upon generations that will see, a brighter day and a brighter future. And that's thanks to the light and the spark that you did. So thank you so much for your feedback.
Yeah, the light.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I love what I do. And I don't know what we would do without the program, honestly.
Hey, Mary, I have a quick bonus question for you. We've talked about the past. What do you see the future like? I know we're in COVID times, but in the next couple of years, where do you see this going in your area?
Well, with the program, if we can get through this COVID, get the classes started back, because the training that I was trying to schedule was a lot of the facilities that did not have the program at all. My goal is to get it at every male facility that I can. Of course, we have facilities that we have to train new facilitators because of staff turnover. They want to keep it. But my goal is we need this program at all of our male facilities consistently.
That's awesome.
I've had some of the offenders that said, why is it only 13 weeks? It needs to be longer.
I don't know. Some of my participants don't say that. They're like, can we do this in 2 weeks? I'm like, no, you can't do this in 2 weeks.
Well, Mary, you may never know all the lives you've touched through this, but you should sleep well when you put your head on the pillow at night.
I do my best. At the end of the day, like I said, I learned getting older and wiser in my profession that I can't fix everybody. I can't fix everything. But, if I see one success story, that makes all the difference.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. Make it a great day.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Nurturing Fathers podcast. Have questions or comments? Join the conversation at facebook.com/nurturingfathers or email us at nurturingfathers@gmail.com.